Imagine this. You're standing in a crowded street. People are moving, laughing, arguing, checking their phones. It should feel normal. But suddenly, something shifts. You feel yourself pulled back, not physically, but mentally, as if a curtain drops from your eyes. And for a moment, you see it. Not just the crowd, but the absurd choreography of human life, the roles, the scripts, the fragile scaffolding that holds society together, and most unsettling of all, the hollowness beneath your own thoughts, the sense that none of it is what it seemed. This moment, brief, raw, uninvited, is the existential break. It's the moment when something inside you says, wait, is any of this real? Have I just been playing along? Have I built a life on something I never truly questioned? And here's the strange part. Most people will shake it off. They'll go back to scrolling, working, small talking, grateful in some quiet way to not fall any deeper. But you can't. Because once you see through it, even just a little, something inside you stays awake, and that something won't stop asking questions. Why do I feel like I'm watching the world instead of living in it? Why does my life suddenly feel like a story someone else wrote? Why does it feel like I've lost my place in a reality I used to belong to? This isn't overthinking. This is what happens when your awareness cuts too deep, too fast. When you start seeing not just people, but the mechanisms behind them, not just reality, but the way it's constantly constructed, interpreted, and performed. You've stepped outside the narrative, and now the story no longer fits. But what happens next? What do you do when you're awake in a world still asleep? Stay with me, because in this video, we're going deeper into the psychology of this break, the existential cost of seeing clearly, and how thinkers like Jung and Kierkegaard understood both the danger and the path forward. Because the truth is, clarity can liberate you or destroy you, and the difference is what you do after the break. At first, you think awareness is a gift. You see through the illusion, and you feel powerful, awake, ahead of the game. But then it hits you. You're not free. You're isolated. The more clearly you see, the less you relate to the world around you. Conversations feel hollow. Relationships feel scripted. Even your own ambitions begin to lose their spark because they were built on assumptions you no longer believe. This is the emotional toll of deep perception, the one no one talks about. You don't just question society, you question yourself. You wonder if anything you've ever felt was truly yours, or just echoes of someone else's desires. You begin to sense that behind every identity is fear, behind every confidence is compensation, behind every group is a ritual meant to hide how lost everyone really is. And here's the part that hurts the most. You can't go back. Once the story breaks, you can't pretend the script is real. You can play along, sure. You can smile, perform, participate. But something inside you remains detached, an observer watching life like a theater you no longer believe in. This isn't depression. It's not anxiety. It's something more disorienting than either. It's the sense that your mind has peeled back the wallpaper of the world, and now you're stuck staring at the raw, empty wall behind it. Philosophers often describe this state as disillusionment, but that word doesn't capture the pain. Because illusions don't just deceive us, they hold us, they comfort us, they give us something to belong to. When you lose them, you don't just lose lies, you lose structure, you lose context, and most painfully, you lose connection. Because now, even when you're surrounded by people, you feel alone. But here's the turning point. This pain isn't a flaw, it's a threshold, a warning that something inside you is being rearranged. You're not broken. You're in between realities. And as we'll see, Jung understood exactly what this in-between state means and why so many lose themselves in it. Carl Jung knew something that most people still don't understand. Consciousness isn't just light, it's also weight. The moment you become aware of something new, a hidden pattern, a false belief, a deep emotional truth. It doesn't just free you, it burdens you, because now it's yours to deal with, yours to carry, yours to integrate. And if you don't, it owns you. Jung warned that expanding consciousness without confronting the shadow, the repressed, denied, and unconscious parts of the self, leads not to wholeness, but fragmentation. It's the difference between awakening and unraveling. Because the more you see, the more you uncover what you've avoided. Your masks, your wounds, your projections, the illusions you used to survive, and the roles you played to feel loved, useful, or safe. And when those collapse, you're left naked in front of your own mind. Jung called this the danger of inflation, when a person glimpses deep truth but doesn't have the psychological strength to embody it. They either fall into despair or delusion. Some believe they're now above others, detached and enlightened. Others spiral inward, overwhelmed by a darkness they never knew was there. But Jung's real insight was this: one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Seeing through the world is not enough. You have to see through yourself, because the illusions outside you are often just mirrors of the illusions within. And if you don't turn inward, if you don't do the shadow work, clarity will crush you. That's why many who awaken to reality end up more lost than before. They see the masks, but they don't know who they are without them. They see the system, but they don't know how to live outside it. They see the emptiness, but they haven't yet found what fills it. So they wander, numb, aware, but ungrounded, awake, but afraid. But if you're willing to go deeper, not just into what's wrong with the world, but into what's been hidden inside you, then the break becomes something else, a beginning. Because what comes after shadow is self. And that's exactly where Kierkegaard picks up the thread. Søren Kierkegaard once wrote that anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. And if you've ever seen too deeply into life, you know exactly what he meant. It's the moment when everything you believed stops feeling certain. When the structures of meaning, religion, culture, even your own personality, begin to feel arbitrary. And suddenly, you realize there is no fixed answer, no solid truth waiting at the end of your search, just a terrifying freedom to choose in a world that won't tell you what matters. Kierkegaard called this dread, not fear of something, but fear of nothing. The raw exposure of the self to a universe that refuses to give it purpose. You want someone to tell you, here is the truth, follow this path, believe this thing. But deep down, you know it would just be another mask, another illusion. This is the existential break, not the collapse of external reality, but the collapse of inherited meaning. You see through the roles, you see through the culture, you even begin to see through your own motivations, and what's left is silence, a blank canvas. It should feel empowering, but instead, it feels crushing. Because Kierkegaard's insight was this: truth is subjectivity. You don't find meaning, you choose it. You create it, not as a fantasy, but as a commitment. But here's the problem. Most people aren't ready for that. They want certainty, not responsibility. They want to be told who they are, not build it from the ground up. So when the illusion cracks, they panic. They either cling to new ideologies, just as rigid as the old ones, or they numb themselves, drowning in distraction and despair. But Kierkegaard believed the only way forward is through the break, not around it. To stand in the anxiety of freedom and still choose. To stop seeking the true meaning of life and start living with the courage to create your own. This isn't comfortable. It's not supposed to be, but it's real. And once you've seen through reality itself, real is the only thing left worth living for. This is where it all comes undone. You've seen through the masks. You've questioned the systems. You've even turned inward and found the fractures within your own mind. But now you're left with something far more dangerous: the absence of gravity. You're no longer held by shared beliefs, cultural myths, or naive hopes. You're floating, mentally detached, spiritually unanchored, and nothing around you feels solid anymore. You look at people and see roles. You look at work and see survival. You look at life and see a loop: birth, consumption, death, with no higher thread running through it. This is the existential break, not the moment of awakening, but the aftermath, when reality itself no longer feels real, and your thoughts are no longer a place you can rest in. It's not that the world is fake, it's that you've outgrown the story that used to make it make sense, and now you're in the gap. The gap between who you were and who you might become. The gap between illusion and clarity, between inherited truth and created truth. This is where many people fall. They become cynical, numb, hyper-rational, emotionally flat. They start saying things like, "Nothing matters," not because it's true, but because it's safe. It protects them from the pain of not knowing what does. But here's the deeper truth. You're not lost. You're unmoored. And that's not the end of your story. It's the transition. Because the break is only dangerous if you stop there. If you try to live in the fracture, instead of using it to forge something new. What you need now isn't more thought. It's more inner architecture. Something stable not outside of you, but within you. That's where Jung's individuation comes in. Because what you've seen can't be unseen. But what you build after seeing can become the foundation for the rest of your life. Once the illusion shatters, you have two choices. You can stay broken, drifting in doubt, seeking comfort in distractions. Or you can rebuild, not with lies, but with truth born from within. This is the process Jung called individuation. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about becoming yourself fully for the first time. It means integrating the shadow, owning the parts of you that were buried, denied, projected, facing the fear, the rage, the grief, and making them part of your wholeness instead of enemies you fight in silence. And slowly, you stop needing the world to validate you. You stop needing to belong to illusions just to avoid loneliness, because something deeper has taken root: authenticity. This is how you walk through the break, not by retreating into fantasy, not by numbing the questions, but by building a new inner structure, one forged through self-awareness, courage, and sovereignty. You begin to see clearly and hold it. You start to feel deeply and stay grounded. You live in the same world, but not with the same mind. Where others perform, you reflect. Where others conform, you choose. Where others sleepwalk, you wake up, again and again. And eventually, the break that once felt like a curse becomes a gift, not because it made life easier, but because it made you real. So if you're in that place right now, floating, doubting, disconnected, know this: you are not broken. You are breaking through. What you've seen is not the end of meaning. It's the end of imitation. And what comes next is up to you. But now at least you've seen it. If this resonated with you, like, share, and subscribe to The Existential Edge for more videos like this.